bro, my legs are toast. So first introduction to plyometrics with the heavier frame. So like
Oh,
the yeah, like yeah,
yeah.
89 kilos.
It's a different beast jumping,
It's a different beast.
and it's easy to overdo.
Yeah, like you were saying, like you're having fun, man. So I want to tick off like volume. So trying to get as much like basically build the load up so that when I get into that real intensive parkour style jumping, I don't fuck myself up, don't break. But
How do you mean
I
build the load up in terms of like the the volume of jumps you're doing?
so at the moment I'm basically doing jumps every session. So they don't have to be ridiculously high jumps. They don't have to be drop jumps. Not doing verticals or like bounds or anything like that all the time. But I
Just
am
training
always,
rhythm.
yep, my calves,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah,
building up that elastic property so that
I
when I
think
do get to the harder work, I don't snap.
you got to be sure to like do a lot of hamstring posterior chain work and a lot of knee stability because I found when I started doing it, I'd get a little niggle and then I'd get another little niggle and the body just started disintegrating and breaking down. And if you're not really on top of doing the other work to prepare the
Yeah.
body to be able to take those forces.
So this is real interesting because I'd say that plyometrics was like my first ever like starting point with training, apart from like just running.
You're
Um,
athletics, yeah, you're like 400s.
yeah, fours and eights, and we always warmed up with we all trained together. So the 100 crew and the hurdlers would all be warming up with the 3K runners. And
Yeah.
so I did get a lot of the touch time and the building up the calves and the Achilles and the high knees and the B steps, but also just playing around with all the tricking and parkour. Like we would just basically start on one side of Dunedin and run to the other side, jumping shit, flipping off shit, messing ourselves up on concrete. Like, but I
Right.
was always in like running shoes, orthotics.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like not actually preparing the feet at all, really.
Do you remember Rick and Morty on Pickle Rick when he's like, get that parkour?
The parkour, yeah, well, yeah, that was it. I look like that pickle as well, yeah, jumping left to right. But we did like we used to stack wheelie bins, bro. So we'd have like three wheelie bins. We'd rack them, we'd drag them from down the road. We'd take like the small ones, and then we'd build up to the big ones. And then basically you'd go like, if I can jump one big wheelie bin, then I'm gonna go a big wheelie bin and a small, and then I'm gonna go two big, and then I'm gonna two big and a small, and then three,
Right.
and
We're
like
just
yeah,
thinking, I'm loving, you know how the Shits and Gigs podcast is like the English slang, those two boys. You're
I
just saying, bro, we
racked.
racked the wheelie bins. Americans will listen to that and be like, what?
What are they talking about? Yeah, just drag them from down the road, and like, yeah,
What
this is
actually are we talking about today?
bro. Yeah, we are talking about mind body connection,
Yeah.
and we're going to touch on like how mental health impacts physical well-being, vice versa, but
Yeah.
also just like being in tune with what your training is for the day or for the week, for the month, what your goals are, and how that sort
Mm,
of mindfulness and awareness around
mm,
every intention behind everything that you do unlocks the next
mm.
step, really, the upper echelon of performance.
That's a good way to put like the mind body connections is a very general term. It's used more and more, but it is effectively like mental health correlated with your physical training or your physical well-being. It's a nice way to kind of understand, get a scope of what are we talking about here with the mind
Mm.
body connection.
Yeah, and have you ever been through the motions versus being really tuned in? And I guess it
Often.
link. Yeah, it's a completely different workout. Like
Oh,
you could do the exact same stuff on paper, but if you're working in a space where you are tuned into what you're doing, you can feel the alignment, you feel the contraction phase, you're mastering
mm,
the eccentrics, you're focused on one thing, you're not multitasking. You get so
yeah.
much more out of it.
Oh yeah. And like the big rocks of sleep, hydration, nutrition, if you get all those lined up, you feel the mind body connection, particularly in a training environment, is so much better. You're getting a pure contraction. You're feeling aligned in the body. The
Mm.
posture's perfect, and you're like, ah, I know that I'm having a productive, positive session. Where the other times you haven't had the sleep, you haven't eaten right, and you're like, you actually feel like I'm breaking myself down, and I'm gonna be depressed. I know for
Mm,
me personally, because I've experienced it multiple times. If I go too hard, it's often I'll train really really hard to try de-stress, but
mm.
you kind of just slamming stress on an already stressed system. The next day or two, you're extremely sore, you're just agitated, and it's the mind body connection. It's such a cool thing to discuss.
I think that segues beautifully into having another practice that's not physical. And, I had to do this like, bro, you'll be the same. When you've had
Mm,
injuries, or when you are just in a state of fatigue and you need to recover, you
mm,
got to have a mental goal as well. And
mm.
the real movement community, like years back, they got me onto juggling. So
Oh,
juggling was
wow.
something, yeah. So I got up to four balls briefly, under cascade, three ball cascade, and
Yeah.
then going the other way. And then I introduced four balls. And I remember thinking, like, yeah, I could see how you can basically neuroplasticity goes through the roof if you just integrate a bit of juggling,
Yeah.
either in your workout or just at home when you're playing around. Um, but it brings your focus straight
Mm.
back into like, there's no way you're never going to juggle if you're not switched on. So it switches your brain on
Yeah, you've got to be
straight away.
fully present when you juggle.
Yeah, yeah, and so skateboarding is another one. Get people playing around on a skateboard.
Yeah.
They're tuned in, their balance, and basically anything that's going to rewire your brain over time uh,
Mm.
through that neuroplasticity. Any sort of mental practice like that that doesn't damage your body,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of being missed with athletes. They're
Massive.
not doing that. They're not doing that. Oh, they got the little light game, the touch game for speed,
Mm.
or yeah, but something that doesn't
Yeah.
hurt the body is always good.
And of course, like breathing is one of the ultimate vehicles for change and kind of understanding the synergy between mind and body, because the breath is something that we've got voluntary control over, and it's yeah, of course, it's got massive ramifications. If we're not breathing efficiently, the mind and the body both suffer. Therefore, if we cultivate a conscious breath practice and we develop the breath as a skill,
Mm.
the mind and the body both benefit. And we've
And
got, like the science. Um, you could look at the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and the branches between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and how the vagus nerves comes into this. If we can slow the frequency of the breath and extend the duration of the breath, hey presto, we tone the vagus nerve and we allow ourselves to enter into that state of oneness, of clarity and balance, which I think juggling would do similar things. You're training the ability to sustain attention. So too, it's exactly what happens when you're focusing on the breath. The mind can't be running away.
yeah, you've I've started doing that with the group I train, the morning group. I haven't done it with the lunchies yet, but we've used eccentrics on an exhale. So we've combined vagus nerve activation through a long exhale and just done
Mm,
like a 10-second eccentric. And
mm,
sure enough, after 3 reps of that, breathing in, 10-second exhale, perform the movement slowly, patterns changed. Like scats
mm,
feel better, squat looks better, whatever it
mm.
is. And I think it is just connecting the breath to the movement, but also taking the time to switch yourself on.
Bro, that's really cool. I can't believe I've never thought of that. The slow eccentric movement, which we already know is proven in strength and conditioning, it's like you're going to create more strength with that controlled eccentric portion of the movement because you can load it higher. But then also the slow exhale, creating vagal tone, entering you into that state of balance.
Mm.
And also, like as you kind of alluded to, the posture, like the alignment of the movement, because you're controlling the tone of the diaphragm and releasing the contraction. The body naturally comes into alignment because the diaphragm is in the core of the body,
Hmm.
and if we get that balanced, strong, and healthy, the entire system, mind, body, is healthy.
Yeah, like the boys just feel good on it, and they don't need to know the science behind it. I
Mm,
just love that
mm.
they're at that stage where they're finishing a rep, and they're not like, oh man, my diaphragm attaches to my ribs, and I felt my posture was so much better on that exhale and eccentric. They're just like, I feel good, and that felt great. The movement
Yeah,
felt fantastic. Um,
and
the
you're
other
planting a seed. You're planting a seed for, you know, if they haven't really explored breathing,
lost, yeah.
then you know they're going to be going away in the car later on and being like, extending the length of the exhalations, making me feel better.
Yeah, and we've started doing it on empty lungs as well. So, um, a pyramid set, just an ascending pyramid, so 8 reps, 10 reps, 12 reps, on empty lungs. And we're picking quite cool exercises to do it with. So, could be a chest fly, could be,
Mm-hmm.
uh, shoulder lateral raises, or it's something where the body, the weight isn't directly above our heads, so that if we did pass out, get messed up. So breathing in, breathing out, and trying to get to 8 reps on empty lungs. We lost Fraser. He'll be back. So hopefully he rejoins us soon. But what we were talking about was using the breath, and integrating breath work to what athletes are already doing. So inside the gym environment, no one really can tell you're either doing breath work or you're not. But the athletes that do integrate it get a lot more out of their session. So hopefully he rejoins in a second. There he is. Um, Bro, what I was also saying was before we cut out was I've been doing breath holds with reps.
Mm, mm,
So uh getting the guys to breathe in, breathe out, and then perform repetitions on empty lungs with things like, lat pull down, chest flies,
mm,
Spanish squats, and they're basically trying to get 8 reps and then control their inhales afterwards. Then they're trying to get 10 reps, then they're trying to get 12, then they're trying to get 15. And like they're
mm.
just turning out numbers and quality repetitions because they're so focused on
Yes.
staying calm without oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anything else, it's like physiologically, you're creating benefit with like the tolerance to CO2, but it's their focus. They're having to be fully present on the reps, get the set done efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good point.
And it's so cool because like you can take a boring ass exercise, like for me, maybe it's not boring for everyone, but you could take something like a cross cross cable fly, right? Or chest
Mm,
flies.
mm,
Something that's just going through the motions for a lot of people. And you add, okay, we're gonna do it on empty lungs,
mm,
and everyone switches on. They're at like a new level of focus. They're preparing their breath, they're
mm,
exhaling, and they're just trying to get through their set without gasping. And then they're trying
mm.
to control it when they put the weights down. They get so much more out of it.
Yo, so true, man.
It's
Breathing
cool.
for
So that,
like breathing and the mind body connection. I always think of HRV because HRV has become bigger and bigger within the last, how many years? 5?
bro, I heard about it from City Kickboxing. Before Izzy was Izzy, I think the boys would show up, they'd get their HRV measured, and if they weren't ready to train, they wouldn't do the 9 a.m. session.
Mm,
They'd come back at 12.
yeah.
They were sort of one of the first movers that I heard about it
Yeah,
going
I
back
guess
here.
it's definitely
8 years?
been aware in like elite sports and training environments, but like it's been commercialized to the entire world through like aura rings and whoop bands
Mm.
and Apple watches, blah 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 blah. And I think it's an important one to touch on how it relates to the mind body connection because through the control of the breath, we increase the interoceptive capacity. So interoception being our awareness of what's happening internally, whether that be the the pressure that the breath is creating, how the heart rate is functioning, how our sense for the structures on the inside of the body. And as we maintain a slower rhythm of breath, the default mode network of the brain is the thing that switches on and allows us to get out of that monkey brain.
Mm-mm.
I think that,
Squirrels.
yeah, it's a really important one to touch on because that's what we're all dealing with. That is this whole mind body connection. It's like we're trying to rid ourselves from the toxicity within the mind, which is that rampant, uncontrolled internal dialogue that is causing stress because there is no order. It's just chaos in there. And when we can change the frequency of the brain through the breath, through modulating HRV through the breath, we can then flip the script and we get to this place of balance. And it's when we are the most productive versions of ourselves, it's when we start to create beneficial things for the world and for ourselves, and we radiate that out to the people we love around us.
Mm.
So it's it really is the essence of this mind body connection via
100.
controlling the breath.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like so, we can do this all day. Like if you were running a breath seminar, I'd love to be there. I'd
Mm,
happily sacrifice 2 to 3 hours to work with you in that space. A lot of my guys just want ways to integrate it. And one of the best ways that I found to integrate it was to set up a routine with them. So looking at what they're already doing, maybe they've got full-time work and then they've got jujitsu. Maybe they've got strength in the morning. They've got to walk with the dogs, and it's finding out where we can place breath relative
mm,
to their week.
yes.
And 5 minutes before bed worked well for people. Uh, Setting up routines with like incense, salt
Mm,
lamp, and
mm,
doing some controlled work in a space with the music that they like, that
hmm
switched them on, then they got more out of their flexibility. And then others just wanted to do it before and after a jiu-jitsu session. So
mm,
let's create our oxygen deprivation. We're going to train, we're going to get fitter, and then let's bring our heart rate down, which you can do,
mm.
contrary to something I read the other day, is that like you can't control your heart rate. You definitely can lower that.
Oh yeah.
Just
Well, what
yeah,
about
100.
what are they called? Cross country skiers that need to shoot after doing like the intense. Yeah, like, it's amazing. I think
100. Yeah,
they're the fittest athletes in the world, and partly
based
due
off.
to their ability to modulate the heart rate variability. They can go
Mm,
from 180 beats per minute because they've just been using their whole legs and arms to to ski up a snowy mountain, and then they
mm.
stop and they need to be still to be able to. It's amazing.
Always, yeah, always on an exhale as well. The shot's meant to come as a surprise almost. So they're breathing out, breathing out, breathing out, and the trigger, 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 bang, and they didn't react. Yeah, so it's like always on an
Mm,
exhale. Um, I've for entry level athletes, people that are running, biking, whatever. When you finish your workout, one of the easiest ways we've integrated it is just to take 2 minutes and try to get your heart rate as low as possible after you've finished your cardio. So, say you did a 40-minute run, you stop your clock, you take 2 minutes, and you work on that slow breathing that Fraser was talking about, and you measure your heart rate at the end of your run, and
mm,
at the end of 1 minute, and at the end of 2 minutes.
mm.
And that drop, we're looking for about 30 beats per minute to drop. And if we're not doing that, we probably need to put a bit of effort into our conditioning.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah, we want to be able to bring that heart rate down, and
Yeah.
think about in between rounds or in between jiu-jitsu matches or whatever it is. The athlete that recovers the best, brings their heart rate down the quickest, is going to have more when they go back out there.
Yeah, and like things like jujitsu, things like yoga, any form of exercise that individuals are doing, they do it for the mind body connection. They may not think of it as that, but often it's like, oh, I need to move for my mental health. I need to
Mm.
train, otherwise I'm depressed. I feel,
Yeah.
I'm just, or not necessarily down that path. It's like I'm not as efficient. I'm not the best version of myself if I don't move the body. And
Mm.
whatever it is, whether it's increasing lung capacity, increasing lean skeletal muscle mass, increasing your heart rate variability through, you know, cardiorespiratory fitness as well as pulmonary function, as all these different things allow us to control the mind and get into a
Mm.
space where we're calm, we're focused, we're happy.
And even listening to this podcast, like me and you, Fraser, we're both the type of people that are, we're dopamine driven. We love smashing goals. We love getting the most out of what we set our minds to. For us, for our team, the people we work with, our family, our friends, our loved ones.
Mm,
We know how much people leave on the table.
mm,
And there are some really simple things that if you just nail that mindfulness practice, that set your intention, set your resolve, set your focus, use the breath to achieve this,
mm.
and then go and smash what you set out for. And like it could be something as simple as getting the gardening done.
Oh,
Why do it pent up? Why mow the lawns in such a state
mm,
versus okay, let's see how much sun I can get on my chest today, set that focus, whatever it is. You enjoy that experience a lot more, and it's all just based off your perspective, your
mm,
mind. So
mm,
lots of ways to basically integrate it and get the most out of your anything that you're doing if you just take the
mm.
time to understand the mind and the perspective is what drives your feelings, your
Yeah.
emotions,
Oh,
vice versa.
amen, bro. And I think the the bidirectionality of this whole theme of conversation, like people can have physical issues, whether it's like headaches or irritable bowel syndrome or just gut issues, autoimmune disorders, things that are like hampering their physical body, or they could have mental ailments, anxiety, depression. It could go further down the lines of schizophrenia, whatever it is. But, the ability to heal from those things often takes a mind and a body practice or something that synergizes the two. So I think it's a beautiful harmony between these two things, the mind, the body, that we need to respect and understand more as we move into the future. Did you hear any of that?
Missed all of it. I'm back now.
Bro, it was dope. It was dope.
Was it big? Oh, you
But
dropped some
I actually,
bombs? I want to hear.
yeah, but I actually think the mind seems like it's still the timer's still going. So I think it might have got it. Hopefully. I was just saying that, whether it's a physical ailment that people have, if it's gut issues or
Mm.
headaches or anything along those lines, or it's more of a mental ailment with anxiety or depression, further down the lines of schizophrenia, whatever it is, it's always going to take a mind and a body practice to help heal from these things. It is a synergy between the two, you know, breathing, of course, being the thing that synergizes the two very easily. And it's easy to prove with science. But yeah, it's a beautiful theme that we need to understand and respect more in the future for how we create our education systems around this
Oh yeah.
and how we set it up for the next generation, because that mind body connection it's part of our evolution, our conscious evolution.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people as well will benefit just from trying it. Like you don't really it is a self discovery process
Oh
for
yeah.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I have worked with like even like think about my old man um to get him to do breath work would be like trying to get blood from a stone.
Mm,
Never going to sit still long enough to be in that space,
mm,
but he will happily do it if he's in the cold water, if he's in
mm,
a sauna,
mm-hmm,
if he's in a space where he's got to do sprints and then he's got to bring his heart rate down and then he's got to go again. But the idea of him sitting still and trying to be in tune, That's not for him, and that's fine. He may find it later on in life. But for now, how can he get the most out of what's the least amount of effort that he can put in to get the most amount out of
Yeah.
engaging his mind? And it was quite cool because he is a really good football player,
Mm.
and he's still playing footy 62 this year,
The man.
and he's still playing Masters 45s over 45s.
Hmm.
Moves well, looks good, picked up strength work, picked up plyos, but it would always be almost superstitious. Like he never tied his shoelaces. I'm like, why tie your shoelaces, dude? You're gonna fall over. No, I never do that. Different colored boot, different colored shoe. I like this one. I kick with this one. And the idea of him taking the time to prepare almost added more stress to his performance. He
Yeah.
didn't want it to be a big deal. He didn't want it to feel like he had this thing coming up. So he'd work mowing lawns, doing hedges, building fences, right up to 15 minutes before he started the game. And then he'd show up and play.
Wow. Interesting.
And yeah, and I'm watching this from a,
Because he didn't
performance
want to
coach.
be he didn't want to be alone with the mind for too long before the game.
Yeah, yeah, didn't want to be in a space where he's putting too much pressure on himself
Right.
to
Yeah.
play well or score or whatever. And like they've won the championship 5 years in a row or whatever it is.
I mean,
And I think they've only lost one game in 5 years.
mm,
But he thinks that his performance is based off being relaxed.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he doesn't like, yeah, and it is spot on. Like you relax well, you're elastic, you play well. And we've got to find that happy zone
Yeah.
between low stim and high stim, because if
Yeah.
you're too high, you're not going to perform well. If you're too lax, you're not going
It's
to
a
do well.
bell-shaped curve, eh? You want to be like aroused enough, but not. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, it's like I had to work quite hard to get him to take his physical prep seriously.
Mm,
And a lot of that was like basically just training him with these are the movements that you should do before you do X, Y, or Z.
mm,
This is the 3-step phase to prep yourself.
mm-hmm.
And over time, it's now got to the point where he's like, oh, football's on. 2 hours before, he's fueling up, he's hydrating, he's eating. Oh, 1 hour away. Okay, cool. Get my gear ready, start to mobilize. And then, 15 minutes before he plays, he's firing. He's on all cylinders and he's ready and he's engaged.
I'm sure
Gets injured less.
those mobility exercises will be more and more necessary after you get past 60.
Yeah, yeah, bro. Like he's paying the toll. He's got a deficit Jefferson curl now. So
Mm,
his spine's resting. He's doing his Nordics, doing his
mm.
sprinting.
Bro,
We've got him jump.
would say the mobility exercises and getting on the roller, the difference that can make in your mindset. And like if you're really tight and you're sore, especially if you've been training, or you don't necessarily need to be an athlete, you could just be tight in general. But once
Mm.
you start releasing all these areas of tension in the body, it's like,
What comes first? The
chicken or the egg.
the mindfulness. Yeah, yeah, chicken or the egg, right? Like because you put a lacrosse ball in someone's TFL, they're going to be in the right space to stay on that ball, to
Mm,
either glide themselves or roll the ball or just pin and
yep.
breathe and release.
But
Um,
that's a good point. But I would say, yeah, it's like minimal effective dose. You want to get enough feedback from the ball or the stretch that it's like, yeah, I can feel it, but it's not so much that it's like extremely stressful and like I need to get out of this. Yeah, exactly. The nervous system
mm,
locks up, everything becomes more tense, and then you leave the session in a worse place than you were when you entered it.
we don't want
But
that.
yeah, but I guess the mind body connection, you know, part of this whole thing is getting a gist of where you are on that spectrum of mind body connection, like how aware of your body you are, and
Mm.
practices of meditation, things like that, or general just training the body in different ways, that awareness increases over time.
And I do like the technology side of it. I like seeing the data. I like
Mm,
the heart rate watches. I like
mm,
having these heart rate variability, like you said. But there's something about being in tune with yourself, and I can tell certain foods don't sit well with me because I played around. I can tell certain
mm,
times of the day I perform better
mm-hmm,
strength wise, flexibility wise. I compete better at these times. When you've
mm-hmm,
invested 10 to 15 years of mindfulness practices alongside your physical practices,
Mm-hmm.
You operate on a level that you don't need a watch to tell you where you're sitting. Like I know if I'm recovered, can
Mm,
tell if I'm overtrained. And a lot of people don't have that. They push through, they get
yeah,
sick, they get injured.
yeah. And I guess for people that don't have that, it highlights the importance of having a coach or having a plan, having a routine with someone that has gone through the ups and downs of the training cycle and the mind body connection, just to illuminate. It's like, hey, if you do that, one rep max 4 times a week, you're not going to be feeling good mentally. You're gonna be depressed.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like,
Be in a
I
state of
I would
fatigue.
rather you not go through that. Sure, you can do that if you want to, but listen, hear me out.
Yeah, and also like listen to me, listen to you, but listen to your body because who actually believes in programming a deload?
Yes.
So what I mean by that is like most people will train 3 months, 12 weeks, then they'll have a scheduled deload that doesn't account for their work life, their relationships, their stress levels, their financial, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A deload is up to you. It's not
Mm.
up to the coach. A deload, or and vice versa. Like, are you feeling good? Like, let's peak. Let's hit some numbers. Let's smash a PB. Let's touch down in the splits. Let's
Mm.
get a faster run based
And
off how you're feeling.
bro, the idea of having an 8 to 12 week and then having a deload, it implies something much bigger. It's you're organized. You've got a plan. It's why having a diary, having a timetable, having a plan, so you know what you're going to do, that just releases so much stress and
For
anxiety.
sure.
If you've
Yeah.
got a plan, things just flow. You're much more likely to be successful in every endeavor.
How do you, just on insight here to how you would deload, or, I mean, we're pretty consistent all year round. Like, do you deload in a certain way or do something particular to actually bring you back down so you can reach more heights later?
Yeah, it depends. Like if I'm doing a regimented training cycle, say I'm doing like 6 weeks strength or whatever based cycle, I would be a bit more specific with how I'm deloading, and it would be increasing the volume, most likely decreasing the maximal reps, but keeping the movement pattern ingrained.
Nice, yeah.
And it's just giving the body 1 to 2 weeks, just like letting it fully recover, letting it know it's like, hey, you're in a safe place. We're going to get good nutrition, know that we're going to get back into it. But there is that, it's kind of like the mind and body are speaking to each other. It's like, hey, I've got your back. I'm going to,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I'm going to let you recover
Yeah.
fully. And when we come back, we're going to be hitting PRs or whatever, dominating on the mat.
Yeah. So one way I've enjoyed is completely changing up the program.
Mm,
And so, doing 6 to 8 week, like you said, it could be a vertical, it could be
mm-hmm,
like strength, whatever, working towards a goal
mm-hmm.
for a block or two blocks, and then using your first block of another focus. So maybe you move to
Yep.
speed, maybe you move to a jiu-jitsu camp. Use that first block to feel out the movements at a way lower intensity,
Have some
and I
fun.
treat that as my deload. Yeah. And like it's worked a treat. So rather than having this scheduled, like, oh, I need a rest now to recover,
Mm-hmm.
I listen to that body, I have that mindfulness. And then when it's moving into a new phase, I always, for the first week, no stress. Let's just move it around. Let's just have some fun.
Yeah, Barry, that makes complete sense. And I know Tim Duncan, one of the greatest power forwards of all
Yeah.
time, he wouldn't touch a basketball in the off season.
Ah,
He was a collegiate swimmer. Like he probably could have been an Olympic swimmer, but he would just hang out, go swimming, chill out, play other sports, and then
yeah.
come back into the season. He'd dominate in the NBA again.
Mean.
Yeah, it's like Nikola Jokic. He's just like betting on horses, probably
Yeah, yeah.
riding
Doing
horses.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
doing something you love, eh? Doing something that tunes you in. Bro, do you have any practical tips for daily life? That's something I'd like to know.
Wow, I'm always going to be coming back to the breath. It's the first thing I always think. And aside from the stuff we've touched on with um, having a plan, being organized, I would say having a routine, somehow integrating a practice, whatever your thing is. If you want to meditate, if you want to journal, if you want to, maybe it's rolling, maybe it's releasing the tissues with getting on a ball and just taking that time to scan through the body and realize, I'm tense here. But just having that preset in your day, it's like, I know I'm going to do that. And if that's kind of there, it's like a safeguard. I find it catches me when I'm starting to do too much. It's like just highlights like, I'm a little bit stressed at the moment. Yeah.
Mm.
What about you?
Yeah, I think like I'm pretty religious with walking my dogs, getting out in nature. I can do meditation out there, breath work, mindfulness. I can program for clients. I could have a productive session for myself if I wanted to do some sprints or something out there. I use that time walking my dogs
Mm,
to because I do it every day. Like
mhm,
it doesn't matter the weather, doesn't matter how I feel.
mm,
You need to move, you need to get steps, you need to be out in the elements. And it's a like sort of sacred practice for me. I'm almost quite protective about doing it by myself. Don't always, try and bring the missus along every now and then, but like I love that little period of time for me and the dog. So yeah, having something like that, that you can stick to, and it gets your steps in, which we know
yeah.
is so crucial.
Getting the steps in is such a simple and good one. Like like active recovery, even if you're just going for a light bike ride or something, just something to get out in sunlight, reconnect with nature. That's going to help the mind body connection.
Grounding, bare feet, bro. Me and
Sweet.
Brooke crack up like we have our little step counter. Like trying to get 15K steps a day, 10's the minimum, aim for 15. And so it's hilarious because if she's short, I'll see her pacing around the house like on a mission, little march. I got to get my steps. But that's evolved over the last 2 years to B steps, athletic movements.
Why?
Like she's in the lounge, like getting touch time and fast feet.
Doing
And it's like,
skips.
why? Yeah, it's like, man, you got 1,000 steps to get. You could pace around the lounge like a weirdo, but like I've got to get my steps in, pretending that it's going to make the world a difference. Or, okay, I've got 1,000 steps that I want to tick off. I'm gonna do a plyo block, or I'm a farmer's carry up the hill. I'm gonna go out with the dogs, let them have an extra sniff, and do some
Yeah.
backwards walking, dragging. There's so many cool ways that you just get a little bit extra out of it. So you can
Yeah.
use your step tally as your overall, active level,
Yeah.
but also like what fun things can I do for 2,500 steps? Figure it
Mhm.
out. You'll find something.
Bro, and having a diversity in how you move the body is key because
Mm,
more plasticity through the brain, more pathways, more experiences, it's going to broaden the horizons. And I think that's a
yeah,
really
yeah,
important point as well. Yeah, if we just run and do running all the time,
yeah,
it'll help for sure. It'll give you lots of benefits in terms of the mind body connection, but there's more to be found.
yeah. Your brain's gonna light up all those pathways. Like people that have broken a right hand,
Yeah.
whatever, and then they've had to use their left, like
Yeah.
MRI scans. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, why not do it with everything else we do, right?
Right.
Try and play tennis with your left hand.
Um, just before we set off, I went on a research trip to Turanga Waiwai Marae up in Hamilton,
Yes.
and there was like 200 different researchers from all researchers around New Zealand, and it was mainly supposed to be for the public, but on the Friday there wasn't that many public coming in, so it was just all the researchers kind of like wandering around talking to each other. And man, there's some cool stuff coming out. There's this technology.
Yeah.
It's called TMS. It's like telemagnetic something electrical impulses, and it's mainly for people with functional neurological disorders, which is like a umbrella big term. But they've had people that have been in a wheelchair for 7 years walking all of a sudden, bro. Like it's this device kind of looks like a butterfly, and it's got a handle, and you click it, and you've got to be kind of like 5 to 7 centimeters away from the area of the body, and you click it, and you feel an electrical charge, and
Jeez.
they had sensors going down to the arm or going down to the leg, like the injured area, and they'd hit the right area of the brain that has a lesion or it's been, it's not functioning right. And all of a sudden, within the space of a week, some of these people that have been in a wheelchair for 7 years are walking.
We need to get our hands on that tech.
Right. I asked them how much it cost. It cost 50 grand, and the one they had was from Russia. And I was like, okay, all right. But it makes me think about, the conductance idea of measuring electrical resistance through the body.
Yeah.
And how that blends into the mind body connection. That'll be another episode.
Bro, I'd find 50 grand to be able to walk on my hands or handstand for like 3 minutes, like figure it out, fire up those pathways and give me that target.
Exactly, bro. Yeah, if they're doing that to get people back, why can't we do it to evolve the capacity?
Yeah, progress it. Yeah. 100%. Start breakdancing, right? Just a little zap. Oh,
Yeah.
now I've got full backflips and tucks and
I also saw this, like, the TRX band.
Yeah.
There's like a version of it that you can do air flares with breakdancing.
Oh man, that's crazy strength.
And I was like, ooh.
I've broken 3 of those now.
Oh, of those
3
bands.
TRX bands. The handles it's got me years back. The first time it got me, surprised me. And then the same things happened. I don't learn. It happened like this year and last year. Full supine row, and then both handles just disappear, and I just hit the deck.
Oh, come on, TRX. Yeah. That's a bit dusty.
No. Stop. We're
not going to let you sponsor the podcast.
Nah. Yeah. One of them was from Temu, so that was my own fault. But the other one was TRX. Yeah, it's probably left out in the sun.
Yeah.
Messed up a bit. Yeah.
I retract that statement about TRX. Audience, TRX is probably still all good.
Hey, bro, my dog's going crazy, so we'll wrap it up.
Sweet, bro. That was the Mind Body Connection. That was episode number 8. We'll see you again next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining in to Optimize.
What a pleasure.
We look forward to the next episode. Ka kite.